case. This paper is going to be handled by Francis Anatogu, but is being represented by Mr. Michael Faniron, lead strategy after Nigeria. Hello, Mr. Michael Faniron. You are to present the lead paper, the role of SEZs in the development of regional value chains and opportunities for SEZs in Nigeria. Hello there. Mr. Michael Faniron. Hello, Mr. Michael Faniron, are you there? And are you ready with your presentation? The second paper that will be coming shortly after his will be evaluating the implication of PAPs for the SEZs in Nigeria. That will be done by Mike Obalu, the third. I'm equally aware that he's being represented, but when the time comes, we'll tell you who is representing him. But for now, Mr. Michael Faniron, are you there? Hello, Mr. Faniron. Uh-oh, Mr. Faniron, is he ready?
He says he doesn't have the link.
Hello?
If you can read in the chat, he's saying that he's there, but he doesn't have the link.
Oh, he doesn't have the link. Maybe we'll try to send it.
Join as a panelist.
Okay. Can he log out and log in? Hello? He should please log out and log in. Perhaps he can get us clearly. And of course, he's going to do the role of SEZs in the development of regional value chains and opportunities for SEZs in Nigeria. And quickly, I want to add here that there's going to be an interactive session, Q&A, question and answers. And the panelists include Mr. Chibuzo Ekwekwo, Secretary and Legal Advisor, Enyimba. Hello.
All right, good morning. Sorry, I've been here. Didn't have the link to join as a panelist, so I've been waiting since 10 o'clock to.
Oh, thank you for your patience. Can you please go ahead, sir?
All right, so thank you once more. My name is Michael Faniron. Apology on behalf of Francis. I just got informed before, just some minutes before 10. He has a family emergency and he's not able to make this. So if I'm allowed to share my screen, I'll just make a quick presentation. Oh, can you allow me to share my screen?
Hold on, please, just a second. Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead. We can see you, but I don't know.
Not yet. I'm not sure I can share my screen. Right?
We can get you now a little bit. Okay.
Sir, please go ahead and share your screen. I don't think I need to permit you to share your screen.
Host disable participant sharing screen. You probably need to allow participants to share screen.
Okay.
Hold on, where the security is, you need to click on enable share screen or something. Click on that place that is security. Then you need to click on enable screen. Are we seeing that?
You're loud and clear now.
And what I'm saying is that they need to enable sharing of screen.
Yeah, it's done, sir.
It's done. It's done.
Okay, great. Just a minute, and I'll be with you. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, okay. Okay, if you can see my screen. Once again, good morning. My name is Michael. I lead the strategy, planning and coordination for AfCFTA. I know it's a very short one, so I will tell you about what we have been trying to do in terms of the strategy development. I think the first speaker, you alluded to it, that we are currently developing a strategy for the implementation of AfCFTA in Nigeria. So that strategy has been developed, is still going through a lot of validation. However, we've started the implementation of that strategy. Last we all know, and has been mentioned by the different speakers earlier, the key objectives of the African Continental Free Trade Area are actually to create a single market for goods and services. We have about 55 countries that have joined this in Africa, which means there will be free movement of persons within the trade area. There will be free movement of goods within the trade area, subject to some conditions anyway, and especially to allow us to deepen economic integration within the continent. Currently, Africa imports about 85% of imports that African gets comes from outside of Africa. Only 15% is done through intra-African trade. So the plan is actually to reverse this so that we can do more within ourselves. And again, it will help us to facilitate movement of capital and investment. So we can again get investment from in terms of FDI, and I think that's one of the areas where the special economic zones come in as well, where you have special conditions that can promote the investment from investors. And again, it will enhance competitiveness. And this is one of the issues that we have. Somebody mentioned earlier the issue of Nigeria becoming a dumping ground. And for us not to become a dumping ground, the key thing now is around the issue of competitiveness. And that's what I've been discussed around. And I think special economic zone, again, has a very good role to play in the issue of competitiveness. So he makes sure that, okay, Nigeria, you can be more competitive because it depends on how competitive you are. That will depend on the price of goods and services that you are selling. And again, that's what can avoid you being a dumping ground. And again, industrial development, and this is another key area for AfCFTA, because now what we do is that all our raw materials, we ship them abroad. But for us to be able to trade within Africa, and that means we need to do a lot of value add to our raw materials. And doing a value add means there's going to be a lot of industrial development within the African countries. So that's one of the key objectives and one of the goals of AfCFTA. And again, we need to double African share of world trade from 3% to 6% over the next 10 years. Currently, African share of world trade is just 3%. And one of the goals is actually to double this to 6% within the next 10 years. If you see, the intra-trade in Europe is around 67. In Asia, it's around 58. North America is around 48. But within Africa, we only do 15%. So it's very low what we do within each other. And these are some of the things that the objective and the thing that AfCFTA intends to reverse and to create. So in terms of AfCFTA, the implementation has started one way or the other. Phase 1, phase 2, we have NOTN as well involved in this. So we have trade in goods, trade in services, and there are a lot of negotiations that are going on, a lot of agreements that are being firmed up in terms of movement of goods, in terms of elimination of tariffs on some of the most of the items as well. We have mutual recognition agreement between countries as well. So all of this one are currently going on within the country. So we're already in phase 1 and we are concluding that. Phase 2 has started as well. Things around competition, things around intellectual property right is being discussed as we speak. So currently, African import size is around 600 billion every year. We import around $600 billion every year. So, and we have a market of around 1.3 billion people with a GDP of 4 trillion. So this provides a big market for Africa, provide a big market for Nigeria as well. We have the big we have the people we have we have SMEs, we have everything that can make us to actually tap into this opportunity. And when you are talking about trade, especially in services, you know, like I mentioned, is trade in goods and trade in services. So in terms of services, we have prioritized the services. And for us in AfCFTA, the priority service sectors are financial services, where we think we have competitive advantage currently. So we are looking at financial services, we are looking at business services, health, education, and things like that. We have communication services, transport services, travel and tourism. Those are some of the services that we see as priority. And when you talk about services, you probably will be hearing things around mode of service delivery. So there are 4 different modes of service delivery. You could have cross-border supply, which we call mode 1, which means you go to another country outside the border to actually perform these services. For example, inflow from territory to one member to the other. For example, banking. For example, you can do a consumption abroad. If you can read what I have, I want to shorten the time. There's commercial presence as well. For example, when the banks have domestic subsidiaries in other. Sorry, there are a lot of people that are making background noise. If you can mute your speaker. Yeah. I think the host can mute the people.
Chidima, your mic is on, Chidima.
It's not Chidima. It's actually someone else's name that is appearing as Chidima. But whoever is speaking should please mute their mic. I'll try to do that.
So these are the 4 different modes of service delivery when we talk about service. Like I mentioned, product and service.
You always plug it.
For us in AfCFTA, the noise seems to be okay.
Sorry, it's Cynthia. Dr. Cynthia, please mute your mic. If anyone can reach Dr. Cynthia via telephone call, please ask her to mute her mic.
All right. So for us from AfCFTA, we have a strategy that has been developed, and this is the way we've structured it. We call it GIAT based on the AU framework. And what the key part of this strategy, and for us, is around productive capacity. So when you meet anybody out there now, you meet the minister today, the minister was asking us the other day. So assuming we even start the trade today, what can we export? And I think that's the question that we need to actually now start asking. What can we export in terms of goods and services? And I think for a special economic zone as well, this is the question that we need to start asking: what can we export? What can we influence, and what can we again facilitate within the zones? So the plan is to grow the value chain of a lot of products, grow the value chain of a lot of services as well. What Nigeria aims to achieve is to capture 10% of African imports from the world, which is to double Nigerian export revenue by 2035. So we want to capture that 10% of that $600 billion that African imports annually. So we can capture that. Nigeria wants to capture 10% of that by 2035, and that's our own aim. That's the Nigerian objective for AfCFTA. And to do this, we need to boost our productive capacity, and which requires a lot of infrastructure, requires quite a lot of things. And you see all the other initiatives are actually supporting this productive capacity, which include trade facilitation, trade policy, related infrastructure as well, finance, trade information, market integration, and institutional coordination. So we have all these interventions that are actually supporting this, expanding our productive capacity. And increasing our productive capacity requires all stakeholders, from the manufacturers, from the suppliers, from everybody developing infrastructure, that they need to do this. So that is where everybody is required. And you can see we have the subnational plan. We believe that this is going to be done at the state level. So the same way we're engaging in all the states to do this as we're doing at the national level, we're encouraging the state to actually set up their own AfCFTA strategy as well, because the production is going to happen in the state, and in the state that can create the enabling environment for SMEs, for MSMEs to actually thrive, and for them to be able to produce for what we'll be able to export. In terms of exports, what we have done again is to do a priority as well. So we have what we call a priority product and services. I mentioned the services to us earlier, but in terms of products, for what we can sell now, because the key thing is that what can we sell, what can we export if we start trading now. So we have one that we call Arrowhead. We have another group that we call High Potential, Frontier, and Mid Potential. The Arrowhead is what we believe that if trading starts today, we are ready. And what is the criteria for this? They are products that Africa imports more than $1 billion annually, and in which Nigeria currently exports more than 10 million. So where Nigeria currently exports more than 10 million and Africa imports more than $1 billion, we believe these are arrowheads in which Nigeria can quickly take advantage. And the other next one is the High Potential, where the African imports more than $1 billion, but Nigeria does between $1 million and $10 million. The same thing with Frontier, where Nigeria does less than $1 million, and again, Mid Potential, where Africa imports more than $500 million to $1 billion. So, and we've done this thing based on the data available to us. We work with NEPC on this as well. We work with all the other agencies, and we have all these products. For example, oil and gas, yes, but again, the plan is actually to grow the non-oil revenue, the non-oil exports. But where we do this on most of the items, most of the product that we fall under this arrowhead are mostly mineral oils, then vegetable oil as well. It's another one which people may not know that actually owe into that. The crude palm oil as well is another area where we think we can take advantage. Yesterday, we met with Ministry of Agri. We met with the plantation owners of Nigeria in terms of oil palm. We've been having that discussion to see how we can take advantage of this. Plastic as well is another area. Tobacco, manufactured tobacco substitute fertilizer. Nigeria is a net exporter of fertilizer now, so it's another area that we can quickly take advantage of. We believe that in Arrowhead, we are ready to trade on that while we're still developing it more. But these are the things that our products we are currently ready. And I think it should interest the special economic zone in terms of what they can host within their zone and what they can actually catalyze within those economic zones. The other one is High Potential. We still have, most of them are what we have, the plastic, but different the different HS codes under that plastic, under the mineral fuel as well. Copper, footwear as well. So these are some of the things that we have in terms of High Potential. The same thing around Frontier products. The same thing around the Mid Potential as well. But in terms of our roadmap, this is just a summary of the roadmap as well as where we are now. We've set up the committee. The president has inaugurated the committee, the secretariat. We have the AfCFTA decks in most of the MDAs now. So we are working with all the MDAs, and we have AfCFTA decks. We have contact persons for AfCFTA in most of the MDAs. What we are doing now is actually we are trying to achieve readiness to trade. So what are we doing that? We've selected priority product and services, like I mentioned. We're implementing the preferential trade process. We are again review trade policies and regulation and law. So we have a project currently going on because if you look at the laws that we have in Nigeria, most of them we not allow AfCFTA to actually take off. So what we are doing now is we are taking a census of all the policies, of all the laws in Nigeria that actually are that may be at difference to the AfCFTA objective. So when we want to do this, when we do a sense of this, our consultant can now work with all the stakeholders in such a way that we can now present our omnibus bill to the National Assembly to repeal some of these acts and replace them with clauses that are favorable to AfCFTA. Then we are doing a lot of training for stakeholders, and we are building a lot of capacity to get buy-in, for them to take ownership as well. The implementation of the initiatives is not going to be done by AfCFTA. We're only facilitating. It's going to be done at the MDA's level. It's going to be done at different stakeholder levels. So what we are doing, again, this year, we are doing a lot of capacity building as well. And again, we already have a monitoring and evaluation framework that we've developed to monitor everything that we are doing, at least to ensure that we capture this, and we are seeing, currently we are trying to get a lot of baseline data to now begin to measure how we improve year on year. And like I mentioned, we are supporting the states to develop a subnational strategy. Last year, we had a national workshop on subnational strategy, and we are working with the states on individual basis and at a zonal level currently to ensure that they develop their own after strategy. Another thing that may interest the special economic zone is the SME aggregation and export facilitation program. We believe that we have a lot of SMEs in Nigeria, but individually, they will not be able to take advantage of AfCFTA. So that's why we are doing a lot of clustering. We are doing a lot of aggregation of these SMEs to be able to take advantage of AfCFTA. And in terms of the cluster development program, I want to believe, I don't know, but I think it's maybe the special economic zone will actually offer a very good opportunity for them for those cluster development. In Agric now, most of the things we are doing around cluster development, because you see a lot of smallholder farmers that we may not be able to develop to scale. So, and again, the SME, we are doing helping them again, mapping them again to exporter, marking them to manufacturers to ensure that they are able to take their products. For 2023-2027, that omnibus bill that I mentioned will be ready, and we should be able to facilitate the passage of that at the National Assembly. And again, we will continue some of the things that we have done. One of the other things that we want to achieve by 2023 to 2027 is this quality infrastructure. We are working with NENAs, we are working with different other agencies. One of the issues that Nigeria has in terms of exports is issue of quality, and that has come out every time. So we are working on that. We started working on that, but we believe that by the next 2023, those one will be something that will be achieved. And again, to ensure that we improve in terms of our competitiveness in there. That's where Nigeria is not doing well, and we cannot afford not to be competitive. Otherwise, we are going to become a dumping ground. So most of these things we are going to improve on them by 2028, 2031, and we believe by then we'll be able to grow our trade value to 24 billion, and we reduce our trade cost by 50%. So by 2035, we hope that we grow our trade value to around 50 billion, and we'll be able to reduce our trade cost by 80%. One of the issues that we have is that trade cost. We are doing a lot around that. We are partnering with quite a lot of stakeholders in terms of how to reduce the trade cost. Another one that we want to work on, we are getting partners work on, is around corridor development. The Lagos Abidjan, the Lakaji one, a corridor to ensure that this trade is reduced, because the cost of trade is reduced. That's one of the things that's not making us to be competitive. And so these are some of the areas on what we are doing currently. Sorry, I'm a bit fast because I know I have only 20 minutes. So these are some of the things that we are doing, and we are actually working with a special economic zone as well. At least I know that we are working with the one in the oil and gas. One of the things that we are doing with oil and gas currently is to carry out a benchmark survey of skill requirements, and we are doing this one with NCDMB. We have a TWG for oil and gas. So for all the sectors, we have technical working groups for all the sectors, We have the one for oil and gas. Some of them have been inaugurated, some have not been inaugurated, where we take all the initiative for all those sectors. They are the ones that are driving it. So for the TWG in oil and gas, I know the oil and gas economic zone are part of the TWG. One of the things that we are doing for oil and gas now is a benchmark study with NCDMB. We want to do a study within Africa. In the next 20 years, what are the skill requirements? What are the capacity requirements for oil and gas services and different things? So once we know this, that will now be able to position Nigerian businesses to be able to take advantage of it, because we know where the services are going to be required, what are the kind of skill that's required, and we can develop it because we have a competitive advantage in terms of history, in terms of where we started oil and gas business, in terms of the manpower, in terms of skill as well. So we can take advantage of this. So these are some of the things that we are working on this, especially that benchmark analysis study, benchmark study for oil and gas. I think it's one of the areas that we are working with the economic zone for the oil and gas as well. So these are some of the things that we're doing. So if you have questions, so let me just stop here so I'm able to take questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Michael Faniron, for that presentation. Like you rightly said, if you have questions and answers, he's ready to take them. So it's time for Q&A, question and answers. And the panelists are Mr. Chibuzo Ekweku, Secretary and Legal Advisor, Enyimba Economic City. Mrs. Jane Tapgon, Head of Legal, NEZA. Mr. Adegboyega Balogun, Deputy Managing Director, Lekki Free Trade Zone. Mrs. Mimi Gochido, Head of Policy, Planning, Research, and Statistics Officer. And so the panelists, and so if you have your paper and your pen ready, you can put Mr. Michael Faniron on the hot seat, seek interpretation, seek explanation and clarification on what he has said so far. Hello? Hello, are we ready with our questions and answers? Mr. Chibuzo Ekweku, you are there? Mrs. Jane Tapgon, you are there? Mr. Adegboyega Balogun, I hope you're there too. And Mrs. Mimi, the Head of Policy Planning and Research Statistics Officer, you are there too. You're the panelists, so you can handle the paper presented by Mr. Michael Faniron, questions and answers. The paper is on the role of SEZs in the development of regional value chains and opportunities for SEZs in Nigeria. Who is going to fire the first shot? All panelists, you are there? Go ahead. Who is going to fire the first shot? I believe Mr. Michael Faniron, you're still there. Hello? Hello?
Dr. Cynthia, please, if you can hear us, your name, because of the glitch in the network, your name is still appearing to be Chidiman's name. So just send us a direct message so that we'll know which one of the Chidimans you are, so that we can allow you to talk. Thank you.
Please. Thank you. Are we ready with our questions and answers? Mr. Michael Faniron is there waiting patiently. And remember, we should be fast. Let's be fast about it so that we'll get to the next paper too. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Toyin Elegbede, I can hear you. Is that you?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
As we wait to link our panelists, let me ask Mr. Faniron this question.
Go ahead, sir.
In your presentation, you said you are already collaborating with the Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority. And eventually, I mean, you have set up working committee. I just want to ask, is there any collaboration like that with NEZA?
I believe so. I believe we are working with NEPSA. I remember Francis had a meeting. Francis had a meeting. I think with Olu Ogunfowora facilitated a meeting. I think with NEPSA earlier, but I need to validate that from Francis. But I know NEPSA is one of the key stakeholders that we'll be working with, because in terms of our implementation plan, in terms of stakeholder mapping, I know NEPSA name come up in a lot of places around the sectors, especially for the manufacturing.
Innocent, do you want to say something?
Yes, please. If you are hearing me, I want to ask a question.
Yes,
Go
I
ahead.
hear you.
Okay, pending when the panelists get ready, I want to thank Mr. Panero for his presentation. In the course of that presentation, he made mention that Nigeria's target is to be able to take in or supply the 10% of the $600 billion import services as we speak. How much of this 10% of that $600 billion, is there any plan to give the special economic zones in Nigeria a target? That's my question. Out of that 10% of the 600 billion targeted by Nigeria to supply to the African continent, is there any target given to the special economic zones as a motivation or as a boost? Thank you so much. I hope you got me right.
Thank you, Mr. Isoichi. So the way we've done it, the way we've done this for our own is not to set targets. So what we do is to work with individual stakeholders. For example, yesterday, when I said we had a meeting with the Ministry of Agriculture on different value chains. So we have different value chain, rice, soya milk, palm oil, and the rest. So each of the value chain working group are coming up with a target of what they will meet in the next 10 years. So for agri, for example,
what they will need.
The target. So they are coming up with targets. So we are not setting target, but we are working with each of those sectors to come up with their target. So what we define is initiative. For example, maybe in manufacturing, we might not have done something for the special economic zone, but it might be an area to look at. I think we need to have a session with the economic zone separately in terms of setting targets. But what we have not done is to set target for anybody. We work collaboratively with all the sectors for them to set targets that they can achieve. Then we develop initiatives around how they will do that and what are the things that they need. For example, we went around the country and we met different private sector, because in our the first version of the strategy, we work mostly with the public sector. So we decided, okay, this is a bit public sector oriented. And again, we got a support from UNECA, and we now incorporated, we went different to the geopolitical zone. We invited the private sector practitioners, and we take their input into this, and this is what we are harmonizing currently. So I think I've written this down. We need to have maybe a special session with you. I will discuss that with Francis. We need to have a workshop. But what we don't do is that we don't set targets. We work collaboratively with all the sectors to set a target that we want to achieve.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So I think we will take this one forward, and we will reach out, and we can at least have a session on this.
Good one there. So our panelists ready?
Sorry, Dr. Cynthia, can you speak now? Dr. Cynthia.
Dr. Cynthia, are you ready?
Okay.
So what of our panelists? Are we ready to make contributions, ask questions? Mr. Chibuzo Ekoko, are you there? Mrs. Jane Tabgon, Mr. Adegboyega Balogun, Mrs. Mimi Wachide. Hello.
I actually think questions will come from the participants. So I think they should just watch the chat. So encourage the participants to send their question to the chat.
Okay. Also, participants, okay, questions could be sent to the chat. If you're finding it difficult to speak or contribute, you're free to do so. And we're here waiting. Hello, is that Dr. Cynthia? Mr. Michael Fadiron, I have a question for you here, please. If I can go ahead and ask you. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead now.
You mentioned your implementation roadmap 2028 to 2031, where you can grow trade value to 24 BS, reduce trade cost by 50%. Now, is this achievable? How achievable is this?
The purpose of a goal is to make it a stress one. So this is achievable. We have developed initiatives towards this. So we should not say it's not going to be achievable. So this is what we believe is achievable for us to meet the objective of AfCFTA. So and what we've done is to develop initiatives around that. So it's achievable.
Good.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Mimi Ngochindo. I've just been given access to speak.
Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you, sir, for your presentation. It was very relevant for us, especially at the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority. I was privileged part of the team. So a lot of the work we did was very related to the after work. So already a lot of these areas that you touched on were key areas that I've been giving feedback to my organization on. So it's really important to me, and I'm very grateful for the presentation. What I'd like to know regarding after, one of the things that I didn't hear you talk about was how can after maybe work with our zones to improve a culture, or really even initiate and develop a culture of innovation. We've been talking about looking at what we can export. We will need a platform for research and development, so we can really come up with products that, you know, where we're adding value to existing things on the hydrocarbon chain. So we'll need a lot of help regarding research and development, you know, so we can maybe come up with, you know, innovative products. So how can after maybe assist the zones with this area?
Okay, thank you, Mimi or Chidima?
Mimi.
Okay, Mimi.
Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority, yes.
Okay, thank you. So I think for me, and this just been thinking on top of my head, is I think it's still around the area of collaboration. Like I mentioned, AfCFTA Secretariat, we are not implementers, but again, we have a lot of initiatives and we can work with a lot of, one advantage that we have is that we can work across stakeholders. So we can work with NEZA, work with Oil and Gas Free Trade Zone, and we can make that coordination happen. We have the convening power to make sure that what you need in terms of R&D, maybe there's another organization that offers that, to make it that to make sure that we bring everybody to the table. So, but for example, so like we mentioned earlier, we need to actually have a session where we know what are the unique needs of the special economic zone. I know we've had one before, I wasn't part of that, where we can now take this one further in terms of our initiatives. Maybe it's not been captured in the initiative that we've developed, and when we look at some of these needs, it might be something again to develop as an initiative. Yeah, thank you. But I think we need to take this one further. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm happy with the answer.
Thank you, Mimi Ogosindo, for putting up a question. I think more questions. Otherwise, we're in the session in the next.
Can I ask a question, sir?
Go ahead, Kabir.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Fanera. Well presented view on the African Continental Free Trade Agreements. But my question is this: do you have any plan, considering the current trend in the federal government's revenue generation, as in they're paying more attention to revenue generation than cost of production? Like, I think yesterday, the Senate passes NYC Trust Fund again, 1% tax again. And this will be telling on companies that are planning to locate in the country, are already located in the country, and are finding it very hard to compete with other African counterparts. So I don't know what's the plan in terms of, you say you want to create an omnibus act. Is it part of your plan? Thank you.
Thank you, Kabir. It's not within our portfolio actually to tell the government what they need to do or what they don't need to do, but we can advise and we can have initiatives. In terms of this omnibus bill, I'm not a lawyer, but again, if the lawyer, the consultants, the consultants that are working with us, we have about 3 consultants, about 2 professors and 1 legal luminary that are working on this. They look at this one. I think it's one of the law that they think will be unique to the implementation of AfCFTA. It will be raised. It will be highlighted. Then what we now need to do is advocacy. But on my individual opinion, as Michael, I believe that bill is counterproductive. What I believe is that we need to widen the tax net and not overtax. In fact, we need to harmonize some of the taxes that we have currently in Nigeria, because the companies, they are dying. Most of especially the manufacturing one, service company, are dying because of different taxes. So I don't believe that it's tax that we need to do more, is that we need to widen the tax net, because the percentage of people that are paying tax. So I used to work for an international organization, and I know what I pay in terms of tax. Close to 20% of my revenue goes to tax. Meanwhile, you see the same colleague of yours who is not even paying anything close to 1%, and you are here together. So what Nigeria needs is actually, that's my own personal opinion, is to widen the tax net. A lot of people are not paying tax, instead of overtaxing the smaller percentage of people who are actually paying the tax. So this could be one of the things that will be raised in that bill. But I don't think, well, I'm not a lawyer, but in terms of what they are looking at are maybe laws, acts that have been passed that, that we not allow AfCFTA to take place. Maybe something like, maybe you can't trade in Ghana, I don't know. So those are some of the things that they are looking at. In terms of tax, well, I don't know if those are some of the things that they will be considering. Yeah. But I share your view, and I have my own personal view, is that I believe it's going to be counterproductive. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabir. Perhaps maybe we can accommodate 3 more contributions to allow us get into the next paper. 3 more contributions. This is a lucky one, the lucky ones. So we'll be able to move to the other paper, because we're actually behind time. And hello?
Yes.
Chidima? Hello?
Hello, can I speak, please?
Please go ahead. Your name?
Okay, my name is Olumide Aderemi.
Go ahead.
I work in NEZA. I initially sent a question, but I'd like to just voice it out. I would just want to know what the AfCFTA strategic planners are doing regarding this. I don't know whether they have a list of skill sets required for the achievement of that strategic plan, and what is being done to involve Nigerian youths in that regard? Because that will really help us in achieving the plan. We need to have our youth trained in those set of skills. So that would be my question.
Thank you. For services, for trading services, yes, definitely we've identified the priority sectors, and within these sectors, there are some subsectors that we think we need to grow, that we think we have competitive advantage, that we think we need to start developing our skills. So we've identified a lot of skills that need to be developed. We are partnering with academia as well on this to develop some of these skills, especially from the school. And again, we are conducting, like I mentioned, we are doing a lot of capacity building. We are doing a lot of training, especially for the SMEs, for youth, for market women. We are taking it to the market women, to the community level in terms of our plan for engagement, to ensure that people have the requisite skill for what they need to do for us to be able to take advantage of AfCFTA. So yes, for services area, we have the skill level that we think we required. And like I mentioned, one of the things that for the oil and gas one that I mentioned earlier, we are looking at what are the services requirements, what are the skill requirements for the next 20 years within Africa. And we are doing this a benchmark study with NCDMB, and which again, this will be made available to the organizations in Nigeria so that they can start positioning themselves ahead of this opportunity, and we can take advantage of what is going to be available within the continental free trade area.
Okay, somebody is asking, I would like to know if there is a list of skills set required for the achievement of the National Strategic Plan, and what is being done or planned to involve Nigerian youth in that regard. This is Chidima Odegu.
Yeah, that's the one I just answered.
Okay, fine, okay. So it just popped up now, okay, thank you. Any other question before we let Mr. Michael Faniron off the hook? Contributions, any contributions? Otherwise, we'll let Mr. Michael Faniron off the hook to rest.
Yeah, can we get the contact of Mr. Michael Faniron? As a chat. Thank you.
The contact of Mr. Michael Faniron, that will be done. Of course, we will do that and send it accordingly, appropriately.
The organizers have the contact, so I think they will share that. So, and we can take it further. I think there are a lot of things that we need to do further, especially with the economic zones. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. So, any other contribution from the panelists?
Sorry, I would just like to add, Dr. Cynthia, I've been trying to speak, and I've been trying to locate her on the names of attendees here, but I can't locate her. So if she's online, if she can speak, she should try speaking. If she can't speak, she should send a direct message so we can allow her to speak.
Okay. Dr. Cynthia, a while ago, she spoke a little while. Dr. Cynthia, are you still online? Okay, while we're waiting for any other contribution from any other angle to this great paper Mr. Michael Faniron has presented, the role of SEZs in the development of regional value chains and opportunities for SEZs in Nigeria. Well, Mr. Michael Faniron, except you want to give us the last word and a word of advice or encouragement before you are let off the hook.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And once again, sincere apologies for the absence of Francis, who probably would have done a better job than I did. But again, like I mentioned, our role is to facilitate, to coordinate quite a lot of things. And you've seen in some of the last one, that initiatives is institutional coordination. So in the next few weeks, we are going to be setting up a session with the economic zones. We will midwife that one, and probably we have all the participants, probably a physical session in Abuja or anywhere you want it, where we can actually discuss the AfCFTA and take it further forward, because I believe we cannot do justice to it on the webinar. So I believe there's a special need for us to actually re-engage you. So we'll do that one shortly. And please take my word for it. We'll do that one shortly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Michael.
One quick one, sir. One quick one, sir. I'm so sorry. I just want to ask Mr. Fanera what's the current position on the treatment of goods from the special economic zone? I don't know whether it's updated on it, and we don't have any update currently in NEZA.
I'm not the best person to answer that. We have a trade facilitation team. We have our export development team. So I don't have the full knowledge. I don't want to say something that is not very current, but we can come back to you on that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much. I believe that's it, Mr. Michael Fanera, and I want to thank you for your composure, your eloquence, and style in presentation. Do have a wonderful day, and I hope we will have your email to reach you whenever the need arises.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So moving on, next is we're going to have another paper on evaluating the implication of PAPs for the SEZs in Nigeria. Who is going to do justice to this paper is John Sebabi. He's a deputy CEO with PAPs. He's representing Mike Obalud III, the Chief Executive Officer, Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. John Sebabi, I want to thank you for your patience. You've been here all this while. Are you ready for us?
Thank you very much, sir. And good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. Let me share my screen. I will have a small presentation on what PAPS is all about and what we can do with it as the special economic zones in Nigeria. First of all, let me thank you for the invitation. For you to have invited PAPS, that shows that you hold PAPS as a very important aspect in terms of promoting the Nigerian trade across Africa. So allow me to share my screen and be able to give you a small snapshot of what PAPS is all about. Just give me a minute. Can you all see my screen?
Opportunities for the special.
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much. Let me just enlarge it a bit. Okay. So all right, so I'll go through what we call the business case. Why have a payment system? Mike, who just presented before me, showed us a snapshot of intra-African trade and where we are in terms of comparison with the others in Europe, in Asia, and America. And truly, the figures are not impressive at all. So why have a common payment platform across Africa? Then I'll go through the rationale as well. Why we need this? Why has it become very important that we can have this kind of infrastructure in another African continent? And I'll look at the governance and then also let you know where we are. And also I'll end with a slide on what are the opportunities for the special economic zones. Okay, what's a business case? Today, if we are we have all transferred money or we have all traded across borders in terms of from Nigeria to Cote d'Ivoire, from Nigeria to Ghana, Nigeria to Rwanda to Kenya, wherever. At least any of us has been involved in that kind of activity. So what's happening today is that if any payments coming from Lagos to Accra or Accra to Kigali, Nairobi in Rwanda, or to Nairobi in Kenya, the payment actually makes a trip to either North America or Europe and then gets to the country where we are. And what does this mean? It means and what does this mean? That means it takes a bit of a cost. Every interconnection is a cost. I will show this in the subsequent slides. So this creates a need and a business case for a continent-wide payment platform. Now, what's the rationale? Just a minute.
Any pocket.
No, I could hear some sounds, so that's why I stopped. Well, today, this has become very expensive. We've estimated that cross-border transactions have costed Africa $5 billion in terms of annual charges, because wherever, if a payment is coming from Access Bank in Lagos, that means it's going to go through a correspondent bank in US, which will connect to another correspondent bank in UK or wherever it is, to be able to come back to Accra or Yaoundé or wherever it's going to go. So those are 4 banks involved. Now, this means there's a cost at every interjection. And this estimate has been estimated to about $5 billion a year. Now, this is a little bit bigger than some economies in Africa. And we've had also these statistics estimated by SWIFT, which we're using today, that really are showing us that across Africa, only 20% of African transactions are actually cleared on the continent. The rest of the 80% cleared outside the continent. Now, clearly, there's a very big business case for us to be able to develop our own payment platform as Africans, so that we can retain the 5 billion we're losing in that kind of arrangement. I'm trying to move to the next slide. Just bear with me. It's a bit challenging. I don't know why it's not moving to the next slide. Just let me stop sharing up for a moment, and then I'll get back. Okay, so given where we are, and I like the idea that the first presentation was talking about the AfCFTA. Now, given the implementation or the advent of the AfCFTA, this requires that we need to have an integrated payment system, because AfCFTA's objectives to increase intra-African trade. We've seen that from the previous presentation that intra-African trade stands around 15%. Okay, that's 15%, between 15% and 16%. 16% when we include North African countries. But clearly 15, 16 is a very low figure as compared to intra-American trade, intra-Europe, which is at 67%, intra-Asians around 58%, and North America is around 48% as well. So we clearly need to have an integrated content-wide payment platform to be able to have a very successful AfCFTA. Now, we may recognize that and we take cognizance of the fact that there are current payment systems existing within the regions in Africa. Countries have national payment systems and regions have set up cross-border payment systems within regions. In North Africa, we have the BUNA. In COMESA, we have the regional payment and settlement system. In SADC, we have the SADC RTGS and the TCIB. We also have the East African payment system. However, these are fragmented in their own regions. They are not connected, so they cannot support the intra-African trade we are looking for under the framework of the AfCFTA. And what does that mean? That means there's a lot of diversion of trade. We've had conversations with business people. Now, they prefer to trade with countries in Europe, countries in America, because it is faster to send money across. About a month ago, I was in Accra, Ghana, and I had a discussion with a Rwandan trader, my countryman who I know from way back, and he told me that a payment from DRC Congo to Rwanda takes 10 days, whereas from DRC to France takes 2 days. So clearly, there's a bit of a diversion of trade because payment infrastructures are not working efficiently. And this is very costly. It's very costly in terms of annual fees, which we are losing, and also the high dependence on foreign currencies. How does this happen? Today, before trading from Kenya to Accra, or from Kenya to Lagos, one has to solicit for a USD or a euro. Now that becomes costly in terms of depleting our own reserves as banks, but also to the detriment of our own currencies. So that means our currencies keep being devaluated because we have to use them to look for other third currencies. Now that becomes very expensive in terms of business operations, in terms of doing business across Africa. So this is a rationale why an African-wide payment platform became very important to be put in place. So before setting up to create the Pan-African payment and settlement system, we had to look at what's happening today. What kind of system can be fit for purpose? Fit for purpose meaning that we need a system that uses local currencies and is also instant. So to have value for money, when you're trading, you need that money immediately. You don't need it tomorrow, you don't need the next 1 hour. The faster we get it, the better as business people, because this stimulates the loss of money and economic activity. So one of the principles was that the system must support instant payments and also in local currencies. The next, we thought that this system should be a centralized financial market infrastructure to make business sense for the African continent and the implementation of the AfCFTA objectives. A very important aspect that happens in payments is having the settlement finality. If settlement finality can't happen, that means the payment system is inefficient and they cannot serve the purpose. And for that to happen, you need to have an institution that's behind and guaranteeing this settlement finality between the banks that are settling. And this formed a very important principle in terms of setting up the PAPS, the Pan-African Payment Settlement System. And also we have to make sure that it is layered on a very strong legal foundation and run on a solid and proven technology. Something around the governance and management of payment systems relies in the realm of central banks. And so central banks had to come in and become partners in developing this system. And we have central banks today that are part of that. So this became a very critical principle to be able to develop PAPs. And also to have a buy-in at the top level so that everyone in Africa has that buy-in in the payment system so that we can create one centralized payment platform and have endorsement from every organ that's dealing with the African integration and financial and financial sector integration. The other principle we looked at was, can we have a pilot? Can we have this system developed and piloted in a similar environment that we have across Africa? What is the similar environment that we have across Africa? Africa is divided into three regions based on languages, based on colonial languages. We have the Anglophone Africa, we have the Francophone Africa, and the Lusophone Africa. So we had to test it in a region that has at least 2 of these languages in practice, and also uses different currencies and has different regulators. That means different central banks. So we had to choose this kind of region to pilot this system. And also to look at the legal framework. What's a legal framework in terms of cross-border transactions, and how can we enhance this. So these are some of the principles we looked at before setting up PAPS. Now, I will go through how PAPS checks these principles. We developed it and made sure we piloted it and to be able to check these principles. The first one is the legal basis. AfCFTA, as the implementing institution of PAPS, has got the mandate to be able to implement a payment system. So from the legal point of view, the system is well founded. And we had to have instant payment as a very important aspect of the system. To date, PAPS has been tested in the West African Monetary Zone, and it runs on an instant basis, and the payments are occurring in local currencies. So that goes to the third point of the success pilot. A pilot has been done in the West African Monetary Zone, which includes Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, Gambia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. It has been successful, and this is a region that has French and English and has 6 central banks and 6 currencies. So all this has been piloted, and now we are ready to spread it across Africa. And PAPS runs on a proven technology, which is ISO 20022, which is the latest technology in terms of payment systems in the payments domain. And this has been implemented and runs on, and PAPS runs on that. And we also have the AfCFTA that has put in place a facility to guarantee settlements to the institution that are the settlement agents. So this is in place at around $500 million for the first pilot in the WAMS region, and also the bank is ready to move it up to 3 billion once the operation is implemented across Africa. Central banks are very much part of the system, and this gives it the credibility amongst the participants that this is well regulated and overseen by the financial sector regulators, who are the central banks everywhere. Now, the system is also flexible to integrate either at the regional level or the national level, which is an aspect we looked at in terms of design. And while implementing this, the PAPS, we had a wide collaboration. We spoke to all African payment systems, regional payment systems operators, and also at the national level, we spoke to many central banks. So we got a feel of what's happening on the African continent in terms of payment systems, in terms of how payments are flowing across the borders. And then we are able to develop a system that answers many of the questions, many of the challenges that were within the systems. Now, what's the objective of PAPS? Under the framework of the SEFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, it's increase intra-African trade, to support SFTA to increase intra-African trade. And these are very objectives. This is the overarching objective of the SFTA, and this is why SFTA was put in place. And also to facilitate economic and regional integration. And the essence is that we should reduce cost of cross-border payments across Africa. How are we going to reduce the cost? AfCFTA, by setting up PAPS, did not set it up as a money-making venture. It set it up because within its mandate of increasing intra-African trade, they were mandated to facilitate payment mechanisms, and these payment mechanisms that can facilitate to increase intra-African trade. So AfCFTA could not arrive at that mandate fully or fully implement that mandate without facilitating cross-border payments. So the idea here is to support intra-African trade and increase it and enhance it. So PAPS will operate on very low pricing that will be able to encourage growth in the.
One more minute.
And the other objective is to reduce liquidity requirements of commercial banks and also the central banks in terms of doing cross-border payments and the settlement process. Because PAPS runs on the model of a net settlement process. So once funds are netted, the central banks or countries have only to pay the net value. The most important objective of PAPS is to disintermediate correspondent banking. We've seen how much it costs us and how long it takes. So the idea is this disintermediate correspondent banking for intra-African payment flows. This doesn't mean that we get out from correspondent banking in terms of extra African trade. That will continue. Africa will continue to trade with other continents. However, as we're doing inter-African trades, we can always use PAPs and not apply the correspondent banking processes. We know that a couple of years ago, 7 or 6 years ago, correspondent banks cut relationships with African commercial banks because of KYC regulations and stuff like that. And this became very cumbersome for banks and business people to operate. So we need to disengage. When we're dealing intra-African trade, we need to disengage with correspondent banking and be able to do it internally. And while trading externally, then we can use our correspondent relationships. And the other objective is to strengthen the central bank's oversight of cross-border business payments. Central banks are very much the overseer of payment systems because payment systems are very important to the stability of the financial sectors. So central banks are going to have a visibility on what's happening across Africa in terms of payments from a central point from one focal point.
Okay.
How does PAPS run?
Please try to round up, Mr. Sababi, please.
I will try to round up, and sorry that this has taken longer, but let me try to go very quickly. So maybe I will go through some of these slides very quickly and just concentrate on the rationale. So at the core of the ecosystem of PAPS, we have the system that runs, and then we have central banks around it that act as settlement agents, and around that we also have commercial banks and other players in the payment systems arena. Now, what's the governance structure? We have the PAPS Governing Council, which is the highest regulation organ, constituted by governors of central banks that participate. And we also have the Payment Systems Oversight Committee, and we have the PAPS Management Board, which is like the board of directors, and the management team constituted by myself and Mike as the CEO and myself as a deputy. So where are we now? We have 6 central banks that are operating. As I mentioned, in the WAMS area, the trial operation have been successful, and we have two other central banks in the region that have signed up, and onboarding is going on. So we have 30 commercial banks that have signed up, and several others, more than 20 that are in the pipeline, and the different levels of joining. We have switches like NIBs, GIBs that have signed up, and GAM switch, and the rest in the continent are also coming on board. In terms of regions, we have discussions with BEAC advanced, with the EAC community, East African community, and with COMESA as well. Now, what are the opportunities for the special economic zones in Nigeria? One is that we're offering instant payments and opening up new frontiers of business and tapping into the SFTA framework and grow the businesses. Now, at 16% or 15% intra-African trade, this is very low. So PAPS comes in to offer the Nigerian special economic zones to be able to broaden up and spread across Africa. We do recognize Nigeria as the biggest economy in Africa, and this brings us to give an opportunity for Nigeria to be export and import from elsewhere, because many of these special economic zones are created to have a kind of one focal point to be able to enhance exports. So PAPS comes in to do this and offers this opportunity for special economic zones in Nigeria to exploit. I think I will stop here and wait for questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Sababi. You spoke well on evaluating the implication of PAPS for the SEZs in Nigeria. Now, because of time, we're going to limit these questions to 5 or 6. And then Mr. Sababi is waiting there to answer each and every observation or comment you have. So, of course, the panelists are still there. Mr. Chibuzo Ekweko, Mrs. Jen Tapgon, Mr. Adeboyega Balogun, Mrs. Mimi Gachindo. And so be brave about it, no winding questions. Let's face him and ask the questions so that we interpret them and tell us why and the hows, and the T's will be crossed. So hello, who's firing the first shot? Hello. Hello, who is firing the first shot?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, introduce yourself and go ahead.
No, this is Elegbede again.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Let me thank the speaker from PAPS. I just want to know from him for our own action, what is the way forward? What's the next step to take for the free zones in Nigeria to integrate into this system?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. And let me answer this in this form. And let me just take a step back to let you know that we have about 6 or 7 commercial banks in Nigeria, sorry, that are now integrating to PAPS. So how the special economic zones come in is as follows: is that we need the commercial people to be able to participate. That means you come through your banks. So how you can come in is encourage your bank. If you go to your bank and they're not on PAPS, encourage them to be part of PAPS. And this gives you a link and be able to participate in the ecosystem of PAPS. So you're the end user, and we facilitate your banks to communicate to the banks across the continent. So you need to come in through your banks. So that's how I will answer that question from you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elegbede, for setting the ball rolling. Who is next on the line to ask John Sebabi's 1 or 2 questions? If there are no comments, then we'll begin to know what to do. But I know a lot of us have comments. So go ahead, the microphone is free. Hello. Mimi, are you there? Mimi, you can go ahead and speak. You have access to speak. Go ahead, Mimi.
Well, I actually I requested to speak earlier. I wasn't too clear on the presentation because, first of all, the signal was pretty bad, and unfortunately, I didn't quite get the answer to the last question, where he said, "How can the zones integrate into PAPS?" And it still falls back to the earlier question from the last session that we didn't get a clear answer on how goods from zones will be treated, because these are all interrelated in my opinion. I am sorry, but can I just get a little recap of how we can integrate into PAPS, first of all, please?
John Sababi.
Thank you, Mimi. I think let me take a step back to even talk about goods and put this context, PAPS, into the context of doing business. Now, there's the question you're raising about goods. Sorry, I have it called. How PAPS can facilitate this. PAPS comes in to look at the flow of funds. But before that, there's a flow of goods that you talked about. Now, the flow of goods has several steps it follows. There's a transport of physical goods from one point A to point B. Maybe I can touch on this, how Afro-Exim Bank supports this. Afro-Exim Bank has come in to support this in terms of, there's what we call a transit guarantee scheme, which is being piloted in COMESA, whereby if goods are moving from one country to the other, they just have a transit guarantee that allows them to flow with through all the borders to where it's going without stopping. So this is one aspect that deals with the physical movement of goods. Now, PAPS comes in as a soft infrastructure to make sure that the other side of the funds are also facilitated. Before goods start moving from point A to point B, there's always, the payments must be received first. So if the payment's quick, the flow of goods will move immediately. So PAPS comes in to facilitate this flow of goods, this flow of funds, the flow of money, and also comes in to make sure that if a Nigerian is exporting to Ghana, they can receive their payments in Naira, and also the Ghanaian will be able to pay with the CD. So this facilitates trade in a way that we don't have to for that currency. I know that there's a question will arise on how about people producing goods with ingredients from elsewhere in the world. So that's another discussion which you can have and see how to also have that those currencies involved. But for the beginning, is to say that you receive funds in your own currencies and you're also able to pay in your own currency. Now, how can the special economic zones participate in this? Special economic zones have traders or manufacturers within themselves. Now, how they can participate in this is through their commercial banks. The commercial banks who are participants in PAPS facilitates their clients to come in and do this through any channels. The commercial banks offer many channels. So either it's online banking or physically presenting yourselves to the branch and be able to make your payment through. So these are the different channels that can be offered by commercial banks to be able to participate in PAPS, because PAPS comes in to link banks to banks, so business to business and bank to bank. And the end user benefits through the commercial banks being part of PAPS. Mimi, I hope this answers your question.
Mimi, are you still there? And then please, let's add here quickly that if you're asking a question, you introduce yourself and you end with your name again for emphasis sake. Mimi, are you still there?
I think Mimi is not yet in there.
Hello? Okay, we are looking at the... Hello, Mimi, are you back online? Oh, the network is not a bit friendly. But let's continue. John Sibabi just presented a paper on evaluating the implication of PAPS for the SEZs in Nigeria. And Mr. Legbede asked a question.
Question, I've asked my question and it has been answered.
Okay, I think I'm back. Oh, sorry.
Okay, Mimi is back.
I was on, I lost my access to speak. So yes, thank you, sir, for that response. It was very helpful and it clarified a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi.
Any other question from another participant or panelist, member of the panel? Any other questions or observations on the presentation?
If you don't mind, I do have one more.
Go ahead.
As you know, special economic zones are allowed to carry out offshore banking. I'm supposing that the structure that was mentioned, where PAPS is facilitating bank-to-bank interactions, will still hold for offshore banking without any challenges.
Okay.
Probably I can come in. I can come in now before John speaks.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Mimi, if you recall, the stakeholders forum that we had in March offshore banking was one of the topics raised, and we had representation from the CBN. I think what our role should be is to see how the PAPs can be integrated into the regulations that the CBN is coming up with. So I think that should be, now that, because in John's presentation, he mentioned the role of central banks in PAPs. And I think this is the way we can just do it, so that it will be in the operational guidelines for the offshore banking. I don't know if I made sense. Maybe John can add to this.
Yes, thank you very much for that, because that actually puts everything in the context. We are working very closely with CBN to be able to implement this, and CBN is one of the banks, central banks, that are settlement agents for their economies, for Nigeria, for instance. And we very much always follow the rules the central bank put in place. So the CBN is going to guide us on how to move in terms of offshore banking, in terms of how PAPs can be placed to better serve the Nigerian markets, whether it's offshore banking or intra-African banking. So CBN comes in as a very important partner in this. So the local regulations around offshore banking play a big part in how PAPs serves that economy.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. I
Okay.
appreciate your answer.
Thank you, Mimi.
And thank you
Another
to the other
question on the
gentleman.
line?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you. Okay, so any other person, question or contribution to the paper John Sebabi has presented? Because we're looking at it that maybe by 12:30 we should wrap up the whole show, and we'll return to our various offices and face the day's chores. Any other contribution? Or maybe it says nobody's coming up yet. Mr. Sebabi, can you tell us something you would have loved to tell us about your presentation that you've not said?
Okay, I certainly can tell you something and also make a request to you. The request is as follows, because we all are business people, we all are producing to be able to export. This is majorly what the special economic zones are all about. And may you be the advocates of PAPs in wherever you trade, wherever you deal with across Africa, so that the adoption can be fast. Because many business people realize that tend to value holding a dollar, holding a euro. But why is this happening? It's happening because of the practices that we have in place. If we trade in our own currencies, it will make our currencies stronger and therefore bring about the desired economic growth and development in our countries. So if this is really what I can request the special economic zones in your regions to be able to do for us and to be able to do for yourselves and Africa in general. So this is what I can request you and kind of end with. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John Sebabi, Deputy CEO, PAPS, for enlightening us on the paper you've presented, evaluating the implication of PAPS for the SEZs in Nigeria. And hello, is there somebody wants to say something? Hello? Okay, go ahead if you have something to say. Hello? Okay, so perhaps this is where we draw the curtain on today's
Hello? Hello?
We have
Hello?
lost the moderator.
Okay. Are you hearing me?
Me, I can hear you very well.
I can hear.
Okay. All right. So we have virtually closed the session. I just want to thank all participants, our speakers, our distinguished guests that asked those questions, our regulatory authorities, both NEZA and OXA.
Actually be a bit funny here. So, Mr. Sebabi, are you there?
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir, I'm
Please,
here.
I
I'm
am
here,
too.
sir.
we are here.
Okay. So, any other addition from your side, sir?
Yes, I just
No,
added
I was okay.
No, I just added something and I said that was my appeal for you to.
Sorry, I'm talking. Sorry, Mr. Sebabi, I'm talking to Mr. Elegbede.
All right, thank you.
No, when we couldn't hear you, I was just giving vote of thanks.
Oh, okay, okay, no, sir. The network actually went off, so you can go ahead and give the vote of thanks to Mr. Elegbede.
Well, I've thanked them, but you are supposed to give the vote of thanks. You can go ahead.
Okay, so let me go ahead.
Give your vote of thanks. Yes.
Thank you for the permission, sir. Okay, hello, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Well, I want to begin by apologizing for starting the situation late. It was occasioned by network failure. I want to commend the organizers for thinking it deep and fit to put this in leveraging integration and regional value chains and after opportunities for SEZs in Nigeria. A wonderful job the organizers have done. More specifically, I want to thank you, Mr. Ayo Elegbede, Professor Adesoji Adesugba, Sir Omana Okonomana, some of them who couldn't make it presently, but sent representation. I want to thank our resource persons, Mr. Michael Fanny-Rong. He spoke well on the roles of SEZs in the development of regional value chains and opportunities for SEZs in Nigeria. And of course, I want to thank Mr. John Sebabi, Deputy CEO PABS, for speaking on evaluating the implication of PABS for the SEZs in Nigeria. I want to appreciate all those panelists and everyone that contributed to the success of this program. My name is Tese Mzuga. I work with Radio Nigeria. I'm very happy to have served you, and there's room for improvement next time. Thank you very much, and do have a wonderful day. Remember, teamwork is our dream, and it is achievable, and light will be seen at the end of the tunnel as long as we work as a team. Bye-bye for now. Now, have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you for a good job, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.